Today we're going to start off in Fusion. I'm going to show you how to install the post processors in Fusion so that you can prepare G-code to cut on your Milo. I'm going to give you a brief walkthrough of some operations that I've laid out. I certainly still don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I have gotten the thing to work. Then we're going to update the firmware in the Milo itself, update to the new version of MOS, and hopefully get a cut going. So, normal disclaimers, the Milo configuration file is currently available for download at the Millennium Machines GitHub. The MOS software is still in closed beta, but it's currently at release candidate 3, so it's got to be getting close. And the touch probe that I'm going to be using is not part of the LDO kit. That is something that I sourced separately. So let's take a look at Fusion. All right, so here in Fusion, the first thing we're going to do is update the machine configuration and post-processor to the latest version. So to do that, we'll go to Manage and go to the machine library, which is this icon. In my local repository, I've got RC1 post-processor version of the Milo. I'm going to delete that and then click here to import from my computer. Sure, why not? We need to go to the desktop and in here and here. So we need the .mch extension. Let's install that. So now we have the machine for RC3, and it's giving us this warning that it can't find the post processor, but that's what we're going to do next. So now we'll go to the post library. I'm going to delete the RC1 version, and I'll import the RC3.cps, which is the correct version. You want to make sure that you always have everything for MOS matched. So you need to have the correct machine, the correct post processor, and the correct version of the macros installed on the machine itself. Everything needs to be in the same version, because if there are changes made, then you can wind up with the macros not knowing what the post processor is outputting, and bad things will happen. So with that done, we can close that. And what I'm going to do is machine this very inventive Milo lettering. So what I did here, we go to the setup first, and I'll just walk through what I've done real quickly. So you want to select the machine, and that is going to be, now this is giving me an error because that's what's in the document, because I had previously cut this. So I want to say use the new version, and we're going to confirm all of those changes. The next thing we need to work on is the orientation, which I have said use the model orientation because that is correct for the way that I want to machine this. Z is up, X and Y are in the right directions. For my origin, I said stock box point, and then selected this box, so all of our measurements are going to start from that corner. I selected the models, which are the 4 letters here. The next important thing is stock. For mode, I said fixed size, then took measurements of the piece of wood that I'm going to mill, put that in. The piece is centered X and Y, as you can see here, and the Z position is offset from Z plus. And I've put in a 2mm offset because what I want to do is take off the top 2 millimeters of material before I get to the model. And we're going to do that in our first facing operation. So we can click OK on that. So our first operation, as I said, is we're going to do a face, which is just going to use a 6mm flat single flute, and it's going to remove those top 2 millimeters. There's not a ton of interesting stuff here, although I've said, you know, you're going to go from the stock top with no offset to the model top. So that's the bottom is going to be at 2 millimeters. And I'll go through this and then we'll take a look at the simulation because I want to see what this error is that it's now throwing. Next, we're doing a 2D adaptive. Let me bring this over. So it's going to use that same 6 millimeter single flute to just roughly cut the shape out. I've said use this silhouette. The reason why I'm speeding through this is I am not qualified in any way, shape, or form to teach you how to do these operations. This is something that I struggled with for a while. I got it to work, it simulated well, and it cut well. So unfortunately, I can't teach you how to make these decisions. I'm just telling you what worked for me. So you can see I'm using the silhouettes of the letters themselves to do my 2D adaptive clearing. And what I'm doing for the contouring pass is I'm switching to a 3 millimeter mill so that I will be able to get more detail out of there. I really need to buy a much finer mill, but 3 millimeters is the smallest mill that came in the CNC starter kit, which is fine. And again, for the geometry, I'm selecting a silhouette. I'm going off of here. I can go into simulation mode and let's take a look at that. So it's going to face, then it's going to run round and round and round and do the rough and then do the final pass. Okay, that looks close enough. So from this point, let's exit the simulation. The next thing we need to do is export the G-code files out through the processor so that we can put them in the Milo. So I'm going to go to my first operation and we will say post-process. This is going to confirm that we are using the machine here, and we're using the post RC3. I'll leave it as that. I'm going to change this to the thumb drive that I have for the Milo, and we'll post that. Now, this is a limitation of the hobbyist version of Fusion that you can't post anything with tool changes into the same file. So each one of these operations has to be done as a separate file. It's really easy to deal with on the Milo side. I will show you that next. And we just continue to go ahead and say post-process for all of these, change the file number, which it's a little annoying that it doesn't increment those for you, but hey, there you go. And here comes the last one, which is 3. So now that we've got our G-code and it's saved onto the thumb drive, which already has the update files for the Milo, we can head out to the garage, update the Milo, and then start making some wood chips. Okay, I'm out in the garage. I have the Milo fired up. I'm going to do some updates. So if we go to Files, System, Upload System Files, let me go to my Downloads, and I'm going to upload the Fly RC1 zip. It's going to go through and unzip, upload all the things. This will update the configuration as well as any other files that need to be updated. Then the board will have to restart and I'll have to get it back on. So yes, install everything now. And this is normal because we're flashing firmware, and then we are going to reboot the board. Okay, well, the fan's just cut off. And there's the fans again. Okay, there we go. So now that the configuration is updated, let's update the MOS files. Again, we'll go to System, Upload System Files, and that is MOS release R3. Same thing, we are uploading. Uploads are complete. Close that. And just for good measure, I'm going to shut the machine down and reboot entirely. We could just restart the firmware with an M999, but I also want my Raspberry Pi to be up. So let me do that, and we'll go to the mill itself. Okay, I know it's going to be hard, but try not to be jealous of my cardboard enclosure. It's what I've got right now, and it does the job reasonably well to keep most of the chips from getting all over the place. So if I go to my control panel, into jobs, there's nothing there. So I will upload those files from my thumb drive. And let's, well, we'll do these one at a time, I guess. Still need to enable right-clicking and multi-selection with the touch panel, but it'll get there. So Milo drive 3. So there are the 3 G-code files for this cut. I do have my scrap loaded in the machine. And if we go back here, let me go, and if I tap 001, sure. Machine is homing. And now what we're about to see is all MOS. So this is telling me to install my touch probe. We'll connect it first and then put it in the collet. So what you need to do is just connect that. It's green. We hit continue and then trigger it. So it detected, and now it's going to probe the machine. So obviously before I let it do that, I'm going to mount this into the collet. And just finger tight on the collet. So you see we have probe detected. It's saying move away from the machine before hitting OK. So this is going to go to the probe location that I gave it when I did the MOS setup. Just dress that cable a bit. That's setting the reference point at the fixture plate. And we prompt to continue. Okay. Now we're going to set our WCS. And again, this is in tutorial mode, so it's very verbose. We have to pick the right type, which I know we're going to use vice corner. Going to go full mode. Okay. It's really verbose. Let's do a full probe. This is where I should have written down what these numbers were. But hey, we have rulers. So that's about 100. And Y is about 88, give or take. At this point, just putting in over travel. Okay, so now we need to get the probe over that corner. So let me jog that over. Overshot it a bit. Yep. X looks pretty good. Y looks good. Actually, let me give it just a skosh more of X and lower it down a touch. Okay, so I'm calling that position good. And we're going to probe the front left corner. Depth to probe. Let's see if I can get a look at that. So, yeah, let's go 9 millimeters. Okay. And once I hit this, it will probe that corner. So it's setting the Z height. Now it's probing Y. Okay, probing is done. So now we remove the touch probe and stow it. With that safely stowed, we hit OK. Tool change is required because we've got to load the tool. So we now load in our 6mm end mill. And of course, this time we actually do need to tighten that fully. We don't want things flying out. Okay. So with that done, we hit continue. It's now using the tool setter to check the length of the bit. Tool change is complete. And when I hit continue, this is going to start. And away we go. Waiting for spindle to stop. And that job is complete. So to do my next operation, I go back to the jobs tab and let's go to 002 G code. And the machine is homing again. Okay. We already have the workspace origin. We haven't moved anything. Now, this is saying that it has a valid origin. We can reset to probe again or just continue. I'm going to continue. The only thing is this is saying that I have a tool change, but it's actually the same tool. It's tool number 3, which is what's loaded. So we'll say continue. And again, it's going to probe the tool setter. It will tell us that the tool change is complete. And when I hit continue, the spindle will turn on and we'll do the next operation. Okay, and with that, the roughing pass is done. We've got our basic outline happening there. And back here, we can go into jobs, 1003. Yes, we want to start 1003. It's going to home. We are making some shredded mozzarella there. And next up, again, it tells us that we have a reference surface. We're going to go ahead and continue to use that origin because we haven't moved anything. And we need to do a tool change. And now we need to insert tool 1. And now that I have the correct collet, I can install my mill. With the Ugga-Duggas. And come back over here. Oof. Okay, so we can continue. Once again, going to probe that tool setter to check the tool length. And that's complete. And when I hit continue, the spindle will fire up. So here we go for the last cut. And there it is. We are done. So let me get my wrench. Back the jaws off. That's freed up. Just have to get some of this extra material out of there. But there you go. It's not perfect, but I am still very much learning what I'm doing. Everything that I see wrong here is more of a problem with me than it is of the machine. The machines are doing a great job. So there we are. A cut made with the Milo. We've got it updated. Everything is running on the latest release. We've got Fusion putting out some files. Now all I have to do is vacuum.